Welcome to But Jesus Drank Wine.
And other stories that kept us stuck. I'm Mead.
And I'm Christy.
In this podcast, we'll explore the stories that kept us, stuck, wanting to drink and not wanting to drink all at the same time.
Join us as we show you that freedom from alcohol does not have to mean a life sentence of misery and missing out,
but actually means living an authentic life full of peace, joy, and purpose.
Hi, babe. How are you?
Hi. I was just laughing at the fact that I think this marks maybe our first day. I know that we talk about the rain and the weather when we start all these podcasts, but I have to say, I love that laugh. That was so cute. Oh my gosh, that was the best.
I don't know if that was cute.
I have to talk about the fact that it is bright and sunny today here where we're recording from. And it's a Tuesday. Usually it's Tuesday and it's raining, and it's not raining and it's Tuesday. Wait, it's Tuesday, right? That's Tuesday.
It is Tuesday, and we are in the middle of a massive heat wave here in London, and these homes do not have air conditioning. So I am hot and sweaty.
My girl is sweating. So we have a fun one today, because this is like, do you feel like this is one of the questions that just stumps people so much? Like, don't I count my days?
Yes, this is one of my very, very favorite topics, because it kind of just feels like one of those unwritten rules, very much like the labeling that you have to do in order to succeed at being alcohol free is count the days.
You just nailed it on the head. That's exactly what it is. It's one of those unwritten laws of moving into sobriety or alcohol free life or whatever, is that there's this unwritten law that we have to count the days.
Yeah. Wait, so rewind. Did you count days? Did you count days? No. Oh, not at all.
No, but what I do every so often is I'll just so for this, talk today, I searched how long it's been since December 1st, 2019, just to see how many days. And it's been 1,290 days since I've had a sip of alcohol, or even better, just a single desire, no temptation to drink alcohol in 1,290 days. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I like it. So I didn't count days, but it's fun to check in every once in a while with that and be like, wow, I never would have guessed that I could get to this, point. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah. So I downloaded one of those counter apps things. And the reason that I really liked it was not because I was really holding the days super tight. It was because alongside of the actual days, it was counting both time and money saved.
Ooh.
And so I was like, okay, well now I'm going to have to pull it up. But it when I was looking at that side of it, I was like, oh my gosh, look at the money and the time that I am saving. So it currently says 1,191 days. It says that I have saved 23,820 pounds. That was basically a lowballing of 20 pounds a day on alcohol.
Say that amount again.
Yes, I will. And I will say it slower because it's bananas. 23,820.
Wow.
20 pounds a day on alcohol. That's what it amounts up to just over 3 years later. Or not, it's been more. 3 and a bit.
What's that rough conversion to US?
Oh, babe, don't make me do that. I love you.
Well,
it changes all the time, and I need to Google for that.
Isn't it so it'd be 30 pounds a day US? Isn't it kind of 1.5-ish?
Yeah, ish. Yeah. Changes every day, but yeah.
So 23,000 pounds ish is $35,000.
Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah. Yes, ish. Yeah.
Wow.
Right?
Okay, well, I'm not a fan of counting whatsoever. Except for in the case of knowing how much money you've saved. That is very cool. That's so cool.
It's so cool. And then how about the hours, right? So time saved 4,764 hours which
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't mean how many months is that? I don't know. It's a lot. Do you know what I mean? It's just that's why
The,
I got into the counter.
but also, yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's so cool. Okay.
Yeah. So I didn't this is the thing, right? About like the counting of the days, and this is where people I think get tripped up is do you have to stop the counter if you have a data point or a growth point, right? And
Mhm.
I always say, why?
Why?
Why would you
Why?
do that? Why do you think you have to go back to day one? Do you have the same tools and the same understanding and the same thoughts as you did on day one? You know, this is about progress. It's not about perfection. It's actually not about the days. It's actually not about the glasses. It's about your
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just like anything else you're doing. Like if you're running a race, running a marathon, and you trip or you stumble, which I mean, we talk all the time about like how data points, they're not these like slip ups, these whatever. But if we want to view it in the case of, do we go back to the beginning and start, if we are using a counter as a tool for us to, and it motivates us, would you go back to the beginning of that race and start from the beginning if you tripped in the middle of it? Like,
Yeah, I love that.
no, you would keep running, right? And okay, yeah. So why would it be any different? And I think this is where, I know we talk a lot about this, but it bears repeating always, is, you know, this there we have tips and tools and all the things, we have a methodology for this, but it ultimately comes down to figuring out for yourself. I mean, the whole kind of goal of this is like figuring out for yourself what puts you in that place of empowerment, what puts you in that place of choice, what puts you moving forward towards whatever you're looking to get. So in your finding peace in your relationship to alcohol, what are the things that help you, what serve you in getting closer to that goal? And what are the things that take away? For me, counting days. So I can think of like the dry Januaries I did and the 30-day breaks I took.
Oh,
When I
yeah.
when
Oh,
I was
oh.
counting those days, and then I was not ever making it to the end, whatever 30 days I, had committed to, um, how I felt after that
Mm-hmm.
actually increased my drinking from there, because I set out this goal, or people using counters for like, I'm just going to count forever for the rest of my life. Like
Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole nother way we could go with it as well. But it's that whole idea of like, if you have a hurdle, you have a growth point, a data point along the way, you know, if you're counting those days, then sometimes that gets in the way of like this massive progress that you're making, and looking at the bigger picture, which is like, how many days over the last year have you been alcohol free? Take that as a percentage and use that, or the last week or the last month or whatever time frame you're working with. So
Yeah, I love that so much, and I say that too. It's like when you have someone that's like, "Oh my gosh, I had a drink this week." And I'm like, "Okay, so when we started this journey together, you're telling me that you drank 7 nights a week, and
yeah,
last week you drank once, and we're focusing on the one day, not the
yeah.
6 days that you didn't have the drinks." Like, but that's human nature, I think, right? We go towards
Mm-hmm.
the automatic negative always. But I love what you just said there, because it's exactly how I feel about it too, where it's what is the goal, right? And I think when we get in those 30-day challenges, dry January, whatever mindset, then the goal is automatically make it 31 days. And when your goal is to make it 31 days, your goal isn't to think about like how you want to feel at the end of the 31 days or throughout the 31 days, right? And so that's where it really gets then tied into willpower, sheer grit, and determination, as opposed to how do I figure out why I'm drinking in the first place? And how do I figure out if all those assumptions I'm making about alcohol are true or not, right? It's just about like, let's make it to February 1st and hope
Yes.
for the best.
Yeah. Yeah, and there are plenty of quit drinking programs out there that do that, like the challenges that have this is what we're going for. And I love that there's so many resources for people if that is the path that they're choosing. And willpower is going to be something that is, pushing you along in those cases. But if you are looking for the actual freedom, is it just
Mhm.
I don't want to drink, or I want to not want to drink? I think
Yeah.
that plays into the decision whether you're going to count days or not. Because if you get wrapped around counting days and you're so behavior focused, then you're missing the thinking that's really driving that behavior. And it does, to your point, end up being this willpower, grit, grind it out kind of thing. And then when it's over, it's like, yay, I made it. Or in my case, I never did. But also, I'm going to celebrate that I got 3 weeks under my belt with alcohol. Like, not
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
clear focus for what I was really wanting. I thought that I wanted to be able to prove that I didn't have a drinking problem. And so therefore I could not drink by taking those breaks. And then when I realized it's no, what I'm really looking for is peace in my relationship to alcohol,
Yeah.
where I'm not spending all this time thinking about it and drinking it.
Yeah, I love that so much, and I feel like it's such a good way of illustrating how the counting of the days can, I guess, further affirm one of these stories that keeps us stuck in what you just said, right? Because that was me too. It's like if I can make it 31
Mm-hmm.
days or 30 days or 2 weeks or just a week, that means XYZ. That means I don't have a problem. That means I'm fine. I don't need to worry about it, etc. And it's like, well, how is that true? Is that
Yeah.
true? No, it means like you could not physically ingest the tequila or wine. It doesn't mean that you're not sitting there struggling, wanting it, like wrapped in a ball of cognitive dissonance hell, wanting to drink and not wanting to drink all at the same time. And how is that? How in the world is that moving you any closer to freedom, right? That just
Mm-hmm.
sounds, that's not the goal. Or at
It's
least it,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's that temporary relief possibly that we're getting from the cognitive dissonance, that you're talking about, that we're feeling. So we're getting maybe a little bit of relief from that cognitive dissonance, but we're not kind of going to what's driving it, what's underneath it, to have that kind of lasting change, that transformation around our relationship to alcohol. But there are people that maybe that is the path for them, and trying it that way. Like, how did I know that I actually taking those like little breaks and experimenting with just removing it without changing my thinking? How did I know that wouldn't work for me and get
yeah,
me to how I wanted to feel without having tried it multiple times, and then realizing, oh, okay. And then what I think is so valuable about, the work we do and what we help clients with, and coaching, is like, what is your goal? Like, and you
yeah,
don't have to have I want to, it doesn't have to be quantifiable per se. Like, I even say, like, I don't even want it to be a certain amount of time period you give me. That's behavior focus. That's willpower. We can all kind of do that to an extent. But let's talk about, to your point too, like, how do you want to feel, and where is alcohol getting in the way right now, that the absence of which would create something new and different for you? And that's where, for me, it always comes back to how what we say we value is in conflict with what we're doing. And having a clear focus on what that looks like for us helps us frame that goal when we're starting this journey.
yeah. I love that. That's so good. And this is the other thing too, right? It's, I think that when we're talking about counting days, that not doesn't necessarily mean not setting a goal that has this is going to sound so confusing, but not setting a goal that has days attached in certain ways that do coincide with this methodology. That sounds so confusing, but this is what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that, like, when you do make a firm decision and a commitment to not drink for a certain amount of days while doing it this way with the goal of feeling better, you do get to an opportunity. You get to basically take that final decision at 5 p.m. after you've made 7,000 other decisions that day, right, off the table. And so in order to to deal with the decision-making fatigue that we struggle with every single day, I think it is good to, if you're working with like a coach or whatever you're doing, just to make that firm commitment to take the day off the table. But I don't think, and this is what I think we're both saying, right, is that you can count days in isolation of thinking about your thinking. I know how confusing that sound. Did it make sense to you?
Yes, I'm totally following along with you. And I think the part that I would take from that I think is so valuable, it's the idea that yes, it might take measurable numbers of days as these like micro commitments that we're making, micro goals as stepping stones towards the bigger goal of changing our thinking, changing our desire for alcohol. Because, when we work with somebody, it's so often it's like, okay, now I'm going to start day one working with my new coach, like, okay, no more alcohol. And so then it starts this, okay, how many days am I committing to being alcohol free as I'm doing this work? There is value in that. There's also value in, no, don't commit to that yet. Let's get some more information. Let's collect some data around what this looks like around the drinking. And then we're going to start to, I love to challenge people with like, what is the number of days that absolutely you can do being alcohol free. That's like easy and winnable when we're taking it and chunking it down into these like tiny ways. So if it's 4 days, great, do 4 days. So so that's different, I guess. Yeah. So I think this is what you're saying. So correct me if not, but like
it is.
That's different than what we're talking about, where we're just on this constant hamster wheel of like counting days. And then how will we ever, like, we're counting days for the rest of our life of, okay, I didn't drink today, so I have another day. And then we get to the end of our life and we're like, okay, well, what's that prize?
Yeah. I think there is true freedom when you get to a place where you don't know the days, right? Like both of us had to look up our counter before hopping on this podcast because I actually have no idea how many days there are, right? And I think, and I get throwback to Lauren's episode again, where she was talking about, I thought it was so beautiful the way she talked about like having the days and being afraid to break the days.
Yes.
And yet when she did have that data point, it did so much to further affirm her new line of thinking. And so how in the world would that somehow reset some counter that put her back at square one? If anything, it made everything stronger and more free for her,
That's exactly right. That's why I love talking about data points as growth points. And what you did for her in that is you helped her take that pressure off of that unwritten law that if I'm alcohol free, I have to be alcohol free every single day. And then when we feel that pressure, how do we show up from that place of like pressure and fear and like, what if, like what happens when the dam breaks one day and I do drink and it's like, okay, well, number one, what are we making that mean? But number two, that pressure, like that's like a Instapot. I picture my Instapot, if you don't manually release the valve, it will at some point pop. So of course
what is an Instapot?
A pressure cooker, you do not
like a
use
slow
this?
cooker?
No, the opposite of a slow cooker. It like cooks things super fast. So it puts it under pressure and cooks them fast. Do you not use this?
Air fryer?
No.
I was like, is she talking about instant noodles? Like,
oh my gosh, you're going to have an Instapot on your doorstep. It's a pressure cooker. You put it in and you seal it up and you turn it on. It's so fast. It's amazing.
I'm the worst cook on the planet. So this is probably why I don't know this.
Girl, there's no other way to make tacos than in the Instapot. But
my gosh, I'm writing it down.
But you are like sealing it up and it's under pressure. And that's how I see
the days are the taco meat. Where are we? Yes, I hear you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm
Okay, get serious. Get serious. This is a very serious podcast. It's not. It's not at all.
This is
It's
very
not even.
professional, very serious
It's
and very
not.
professional. Not at all. But I see that so often with clients, and like in Lauren's story, it's such a great example of that relief when we offer that. Like, number one, who's saying all these things that like you have to
Who
start
is saying them?
they that you have to start over counting. If you are a counter and you have to start over at day one with counting, who says
AA
that?
says that. AA says it, I think.
That is,
Isn't that what they say? Right?
oh, you're right.
Isn't that what they say? I don't know.
You're right. I think so. You're right.
Yeah.
So that's where we pick it up from. But
do they come and take? Please don't. I'm not trying to be rude here, you guys, gals, whoever's listening to this. I'm actually wondering this on the fly. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Do they come and take your chips away if you have a data point? If you have a drink after you've like had?
Oh,
does it get taken away?
I don't know.
I don't know that either. Because that is scary. Like that would feel really scary.
That and I'm thinking about like how we do it in coaching and how it's not so pressure filled, but yet people are putting that pressure, our clients are putting that pressure on themselves. But then to be in a part of a space where that it's amplified, oh my gosh, it's just like kind of inevitable, I feel like, in a sense. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great point.
I just thought of that. And like that, it makes me actually like if I was in that place, yeah, it would. It'd feel scary. It'd feel really sad. It would feel overwhelming. Right. Like, and that means that
it would feel life or death. Yeah.
Life or death. And that's why counting days, like I feel like it's a barrier to entry into the curiosity journey of doing this, right? Because if you feel like there is no way I can get the days, right? Why would you have the motivation to try if that's the goal?
Well, and it reminds me too of how when I was looking at my options, when I finally came to that painful awareness that alcohol was in fact, I tried so long to like find any other reason to believe that what I was feeling, the tension I was feeling, the conflict that I was feeling, the offness that I was feeling, I tried a million different ways to find anything but alcohol as being the problem. And when I was finally looking at that and realizing that like I could continue miserably being in this conflict and all the things, or try every single day for the rest of my life, miserably trying not to drink, like that's where I was like, those are, yeah, like that feels that's stuck. Either way is stuck. And that doesn't feel empowering. And that doesn't feel then, and if you think about what that then creates from a place of pressure on ourselves, that I'm so grateful that I mean, really divinely, the Lord sent me the exact thing that I needed at the exact time to, when I was on my knees praying for like, help me, whatever you say, like, I will do anything. I don't want miserable and I don't want miserable. Give me a third way. And that's when a neighbor mentioned this naked mind and said, but be careful, you may never want to drink again. And I was like, oh, that's what I was missing. It's I don't want to drink. And when I don't want to drink, then I will feel free. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for creating space and time in my life, not taking away. And my thought was, if I do decide to do something about this and I start doing these meetings and then I'm just holding so tight to never having a drink, like that's just going to increase my mental real estate and distraction and all of that. That actually is not bringing me back to my values, which are like being present and being, connected and those things that I was missing. So I'm having I didn't see our conversation going this way. And yet, so powerful in thinking it through that lens too, of like when we're telling ourselves these things that we have to do, whose voice is it?
Right. Yeah.
Says who? Yeah. Where does it come from? And then it points us back to where we're picking up these unconscious, these stories. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that so much. And I do think that there is space for using days as celebration, like there is that oh my gosh, I am a year or whatever, like is it you that said this or did someone else say this? So yes, is that what Carla Atkins was saying when she was talking about like celebrating? I think it was her that mentioned like celebrating the milestones, right? Like celebrating the years, but not necessarily getting bogged down in counting the days. I think it was her that said that when she was on the pod. But yeah, like I don't know. It's again what like you just said this, but we get to decide how we want to use this information. Right?
Yes. And what I think this bigger like journey and what, my coaches helped me figure out and what we're ultimately doing here and doing this work is like, how to resource for ourselves, how to tap into what our needs and our wants are, and then to meet those needs and those wants so they don't end up as misdirected, towards other things and putting with, going back to like false idols and taking up, taking up space in our hearts and keeping us from what we want to be focused on. And it's like we're doing that in this like smallish way that's a really big way, but it feeds. That's why it's so applicable to so many things. It's like really getting us back to that place of being able to decide for ourselves what is helping me, where am I headed, how do I want to be showing up, and what helps me get there. I mean, it's so simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah That's so true. It's so true. I think about like I think about me, I guess, right? Back in the day when I was stuck, even just like the idea of having to make it a number of days, quote unquote, like get through, like check them off the list. Like how is that a way to live, right? How is that a way to live when you're literally just trying to, gosh, when you think about it, it reminds me of also like being stuck in the day to day of drinking, just racing, trying to just get to the end of the day, get to the end of the day so I can have the wine, get to the end of the day, get to the end of the day so I can sit on the couch, pour the glass of wine, get it done, we're just, either way, it's like you said, it's either stuck or stuck, right? It's either like I've got a barren Grit and bear it. There we go. Gosh, what is wrong? It's because it's so
Words
hot.
are hard, especially
Words
when you're
are
hot.
hard. Remember how we said we were smarter now that we don't drink the wine? You have to grin and bear it, trying to get through the days alcohol free, or grin and bear it through your hangover to get to the end of the day to open up the bottle of wine. It's stuck and stuck.
Stuck and stuck. It's the difference between living in reactive mode and like I don't even want to say proactive, but or like defense versus offense. Oh no, I'm gonna go like let's not do this. Let's not tread into the sports territory that we are not very wise in. But it is that it's that difference of like survival versus, I think that is one thing that I would love for people to hear. I know I say it a lot, but I'm going to say it again.
Do it.
When I started my journey, if I could just find freedom from alcohol, I would have been happy. So it's like there was this so-called quote unquote, I'm doing air quotes again, problem that needed to be solved.
They haven't shown up in a while, those fingers.
I know.
I miss them, the air quotes.
I know. They've been very tired lately.
I'm sorry. I'm interrupting you left, right, and center today. Sorry.
You're challenging the ADD right here. It's
sorry. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. You're helping me work through it. But when I was like, I had this identified problem I needed to solve, and then if I could solve it, I would have been like great, right off into the sunset. Everything is wonderful. I had no idea that it wasn't just about solving a problem, but actually the intentional creation of a life that I want on the other side. Not just like where I'm not doing the thing that I don't want to be doing, but I'm actually stepping into creating with, again, like back aligned with the Lord and creating with the creator what my life is supposed to look like as what's best by him. Like that's what blows my mind, that I didn't see it when I was stuck in it. I just saw, here's a problem, get me out of this problem
Yeah.
and solve that. And I would have been happy, but I had no idea that we got to, step into this whole new way of seeing like actually intentional creation of everything else from there. And that goes back to, I think, your point about like celebrating and not celebrating. And it's like, I love to ask, my clients, like, do you feel good when we celebrate? Like, do you want to celebrate milestones? How does that make
Yeah.
you
I like
feel?
that.
If that's
Yeah.
something that makes you feel good, I am going to celebrate that with you all day long. If counting days is something that makes you feel good, I will help you count days. I will be that cheerleader for whatever, but I want it to come from a place of you saying, this is what's helping me.
Yeah.
I've tapped into this. I'm looking at this. This is what's helping me move forward, versus someone saying, here are the rules, these unwritten rules about how we're supposed to do this. That's no
Yeah.
place to live.
Yeah. That's so good. And you just said something that like triggered me thinking about the fact that like not only can doesn't have to, but can the counting days be wrapped up in fear, it also can be
Mm-hmm.
wrapped up in shame. And that's
Yes.
exactly where we're trying to like maneuver out of, right? So you have a growth point, you break a streak, whatever. If that's going to put you right back in the place of shame, well, we know where that leaves you in the brain, right? It leaves you in a place of fight, flight, freeze, and hit the easy button for the open of the bottle of the wine situation. So it's almost like putting you back in that spot that we're trying to maneuver out of to begin with, right? Which is a place of using our rational brains to, yeah, like when I think about it that way, right? It's,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, wow.
Yeah. And that's what I love about being able to really get into the kind of the nitty-gritty of this work, is that's the kind of stuff that you come to see and you're like, wow, who knew that is. It's one thing for us to say like, bring compassion. Self-compassion is so important for this. It's one thing for us to say like, let's put down the weapons of blame and shame, but it's another thing to say, well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
I hear you, but what does that mean and why am I doing it? Well, this is what it looks like. If I'm counting days and I have a data point, I drink alcohol, I'm going to feel that shame that then is going to tell me there's something. So again, maybe this even goes deeper. Whose voice are we listening to?
Yeah.
Whose voice? Is it evil's, or is it
Yeah.
God?
Yeah.
Like really, we could take that a whole other direction too. But
Yeah.
that's where we say, if that's going to be the result, then maybe we try differently. Okay, let's try
Mm-hmm.
differently in this. And instead of being stuck in that, maybe it is you count days, but the next morning when that shame kind of comes in, you're gonna set a timer, and you're gonna get into your body, and you're gonna take some deep breaths, and then you're gonna go, no, this is where shame comes in, and I refuse to let this be like it has been in the past. Shame that's gonna keep me stuck. I'm gonna choose to see this as growth. Okay, what did I learn from this data point last night? What is it trying to reveal to me about my relationship to alcohol and helping me untangle this that I can use towards freedom? That's the
Yeah.
value in this kind of work, where it allows us that opportunity to say, yes, I know that celebration does feel really good, and I would like, that is something that felt that, so I'm going to continue using celebration as one of my tools for moving me along in my journey, whatever I'm working with. Or yeah, I went really tangenty on on that one, but
No, but I liked it, and I totally smelled what you were cooking over there in your Instant Pot.
my Instapot.
But also, it made me think that another thing is that there isn't some sort of magic in hitting a milestone or the number of
Yes.
days, right? Because I actually was talking to a gal, a one-on-one, like last week, and she was like, "Well, if I can just make it a year," and I said to her, "What's going to be different then?"
Yeah.
What is magical about hitting the number 365 if you still feel like you can't have any fun without a glass of wine in your hand? There is no magic in the number of days. This takes a matter of weeks for some people, and it takes a matter of years for others. And it's all about that experiential knowledge, knowing it in your soul, knowing it in your bones, that you don't need alcohol, that there is no benefit to you anymore. And that journey is different for everybody. And I can't even tell you how many times I have gotten the DM on Instagram, how long did it take? And I'm
Mm.
just like, girlfriend, it does not matter how long it took for me, because it's going to be different for you. It's going to be so different because we're two different people with two different sets of beliefs and two different like sets of experiences that are going to have to unwind those beliefs, right? So
Yeah.
there isn't any magic. And I think that's part of the problem. I think people think like, oh, if I can, if I can make it 6 months, or if I can make it a year, all of my problems are solved and I won't have the desire to drink anymore. And that's not what it takes. The good news in that, right, is that it doesn't have to take years. It
Yeah.
can it can take a lot less, which it did for you and me. I mean, and I know we talked about this on a previous episode, but like I'll never forget like when my in the beginning of like my this naked mind training, my biggest energy snag that I kept tripping over was like, oh my gosh, I don't have that many. I haven't been alcohol free that long. How in the world can I help people?
Yeah.
But it's like, but I was so free that
Mm-hmm.
I knew I could, right? So it really isn't about the number of days. It's just, I mean, how many ways can we say that?
It's yeah. Well, because no, and oh my gosh, there's so much gold in what you said there, because it comes down to what are we making it mean
Yeah.
about our journey, about
Yeah.
ourselves, about whatever. So what story is really underneath that? If I can make it till, 365 days, I'm making that mean that I am worthy. I'm making that mean that I'm successful. I'm making that mean that that I did this right. I did this well. Whatever that is.
That you don't have
Okay,
a problem. Yeah.
guess what? You can come to that same truth without holding so tight to that number, without holding so tight to that. If only I make it till this, then it's the if, when, then, that arrival fallacy thing that just, I think, creates so many problems. And similarly, it's the same thing when we wake up from say, a data point, and it's, or oh my gosh, like I, went 100 days alcohol free, and then I've had this day. Well, what are you making it mean? What are you making it
Mm-hmm.
mean about
Mm-hmm.
yourself, about your journey, because you're making it mean something, or else it wouldn't have this weight to it. And so by asking that question, like, well, what will be different for, like, why is that what are you trying to prove in that? And when we take the focus off of the our action, our behavior as being proof of who we are, or our worth. I mean, yeah, and we can go a whole nother, but oh my gosh, yeah. That's
Yeah.
yeah. That's why it comes back to, like we say all the time, our thinking. How is the thinking creating whatever it is for us?
Yeah. Love that. So good. So good.
So good. I know there's some happiness research out there that talks about, I think it's Arthur Brooks. I should have looked this up ahead of time, but it just came to mind that his research that shows that when we actually arrive somewhere, or we get the thing that we're working towards, and we hit the goal, we achieve the, whatever we're working for that promotion, and then we get the promotion, or we're, working to get the I'm like the sports stuff. I'm trying to come up with the sports stuff, whatever. There's a reason why that doesn't flow naturally for me. You get that thing, the championship, or the
Yeah.
state
Yeah.
finals for tennis, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you get that, and that feels really good when you get there.
Mm-hmm.
But happiness, research is showing that we're actually happier in the process of getting to that so-called destination or goal that we're looking to achieve. And so it's the progress, it's the journey, it's the moving along that. And how, using a day to undo all that we're making in progress. Like, yeah, I don't know what my point was, except for to say that, really not focusing so much on the end. And I mean, yes, have your intention and your goal, but enjoying and thinking about the progress you're making. That's how we also train our minds towards abundance versus that lack, more towards being able to hear God's voice louder than the voice of the enemy.
Yeah. Well, you were in the beginning of, it's so funny. We're on the same wavelength here, because when you started with the Arthur Brooks stuff, I was looking up a quote that was actually on Jess Connolly's, I think, Breaking Free from Body Shame, like Instagram this week. And it was, your best days aren't locked up in a future season. And I like screenshotted it because I was like, oh my gosh, that's so good. And she posted, I think, for a lot of reasons to do with like body and all that stuff and being present and not missing out on God's abundance in the here and now. And I think it applies to this too, right? Like and I want to like spin it, like your freedom isn't locked up in a future season or in a number of days.
No, so true. So true.
Yeah. Should we Tina it up?
Let's do it. What you thinking? Look at you.
I'm thinking that I want to turn a fan on. Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious, like what my Tina is. Like, if counting days works for you, great. If they feel like they're not, if they feel like, if you have any feeling regard that doesn't make you feel good, like hold it really loosely and you don't have to do it. And my biggest Tina of all the Tinas is you never, ever, 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 ever have to restart the counter, ever. You are never back at day one. You are never back at square one. This is about, I know I already said this, but I'm going to say it again. This is about progress, not perfection. And you never have to restart the clock, ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. It does not undo the progress you've made, the work you've done, what you've learned. And that's the thing when we're celebrating. That's why I love, if celebrating a certain number of days, that is your jam, I will cheer you on. But I also love opening to the possibility of celebrating what it is that I have, like looking for what it is that I have learned. And when we're doing that, we're less focused on this, behavior action only being successful, so to speak, air quotes again, based on what I'm doing. Cause it's just not true.
Yeah. I love that.
Yay.
So good, babe. Such a good one. I've been wanting to do that one for a while. I'm glad you reminded me that we had that on the docket today.
Yes, I know. Yeah. Y'all definitely let us know how this, sets with you. Like what are you finding? We'd love, feedback from, like to hear all the experiences with counting days, not counting days. Contact us. Let us know. We have a form on our show notes.
Yeah, there's a form there and you can get in touch with us, and you could also submit questions there too. If there's something that we haven't talked about yet, like which there is a lot of, or there's something that you want us to do an episode about or a guest you want us to have, please let us know. There's a form there in the show notes. We would love to hear from you.
It's one of my favorite things when I see that form has been submitted and we get to hear from like real people who are actually listening. It's like, oh, yay. And there's some like feedback. Like we take it very seriously and we want to be able to, speak to whatever. If we don't have answers, we usually don't. We'll find people that
we'll find them.
Can.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah. So bye y'all.
Bye. Thanks, gals. Thank you so much for joining us again this week. You can find all of our episodes at butjesusdrankwine.com, and make sure you follow us over on the gram at Love Life Sober with Christy and Mead at I'm Not Sober, I'm Free.
To learn more about what we do, you can visit our websites at meadhollandshirley.com and lovelifesober.com.
Take a screenshot of this podcast and share it with a friend or two.
And don't forget to subscribe so you don't have to worry about missing a single episode. And if you love what we're doing, please leave us a review on Apple or Spotify.
This helps more women who are feeling stuck and alone in the overdrinking cycle to find hope and encouragement.
Thanks, ladies. We so appreciate you. We'll see you next week.